for tuning in to another episode of Devil in the Courtroom, Silent Torture, Trafficking Through Guardianship. What would you do if a loved one was forced into isolation simply so his or her money could be stolen? Senior independent adults are being forced into isolation all around this country while their assets are pillaged. It happens more than you realize. There are several states that are considered hot spots, and Michigan, especially the Metro Detroit area, is considered as such. What does that mean? It's organized crime, sanctioned by the court, full of collusion and corruption. I want to introduce to you another victim of silent torture, trafficking through guardianship.
I'm here to report about what's been going on in Oakland County Court with the probate court. As most of you know, that we've had problems with the so-called judges and corruption in our court, and we're trying to meet with the judges to try and have a meeting to find out what we can do to work together to get this turned around. So far, to this point, nothing has happened with the judges. So we have taken another step, and we have met with the Attorney General's office, Dana Nessel. And I have to report that we did have a staff meeting, and we did take in over close to 3,000 cases of proof of the corruption going on in Oakland County. I have to report that Dana's staff did not want to do anything about that. She had a meeting where she has had a coalition now brought together to look into the corruption, but it's corruption of family members, where we're going to prosecute the family members. She's chosen to take a blind eye to helping us figure out what to do about Oakland County courts wanting to stop stealing family assets. So, I have to say that I was very disappointed because I was hoping that she might get involved, step up to the plate, and do the right thing for all of the citizens. We were actually blackballed from her press conference, so I and a couple other family members, victims, went on our own and did a protest. And I did make it in the Detroit News. I would like to officially announce that I am going to self-appoint myself as a court watcher, and I will begin that job on June 24th. I will come in and report, and I want to be fair. I'm not going to go in and cherry pick. I want to be absolutely fair about what I'm going to report. But something needs to be done. I've been here many, many times. I have asked, I'm begging, and I know there's only so much that you guys can do for us, but we have to have a public platform where we can come in and report and have a record of what's going on here in Oakland County. And we're hoping to hold these judges, their feet to the fire, and make them do their job. And I hate to say the word make, but they don't follow the canons. They think because they are judges that they can take the law into their own hands, and they can work with these appointed attorneys that are appointed through the Attorney General's office, and they back these guys who are coming in and stealing our assets. And what makes me very upset about it is that I don't want anybody else to ever have to go into Oakland County and go through what I've been put through. And I don't want them to have to lose their life savings to go in and try to get back what's rightfully theirs. So that's the latest update. I wanted to tell you as well that Thomas Brandon Frazier did sell my farm for $150,000 less than what it was really valued. Mr. White has lost his winery as well to Frazier. So we have some problems here. But I did want to thank you for listening to me. I am going to report into work, like I said, June 24th. So don't be surprised when you see me standing outside of the court with my signs, letting the people know at large what's going on, as well as being in the courtrooms and babysitting.
That story is reprehensible. And the woman who was telling that story is with me this evening. Her name is Victoria McCaskey. She is the woman who stood there in front of that courtroom, pouring her heart out, telling her story of how her assets were pillaged, telling her story of how she lost almost everything. But no one can tell her story better than she can. So I want to welcome to the Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream radio broadcast, Victoria McCaskey. How are you doing, Victoria?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you for having me, Valerie.
It's my pleasure to have you because this is not an easy thing to do, to tell this story over and over and over again. So first of all, I just want to thank you for your resilience and your strength, because I know you've been fighting and you've been fighting for a while. I think this is a wonderful thing for you to be that voice for the voiceless. It's some people who don't have that fight. It's some people who don't know how to fight. It's people that don't know what to do. And there are other listeners who have probably never heard of such a thing, because I've been floored by some of the things that I've been hearing. So tell us about your loved one and the legacy of work, because it sounds like they worked very hard to get the things that they acquired that were then pillaged.
Well, Valerie, I was with Conrad Reeder for 35 years. He was my life partner. And he had Lewy body dementia and passed away. And I couldn't find the will immediately. So I had his cousin, who was an attorney, asked her to step in and help me, which she did. And she contacted Conrad's brother, and he didn't want any part of the estate, so he said. From that point, she had gone into court and got all the proper paperwork in order and began to oversee the estate. Conrad had two nieces that came in from Arizona and California from his sister, and his sister had passed away back in 1992 from a car accident. Anyhow, they decided that they wanted me to have everything. That's what they told me. And come to find out, when they found out the amount of the estate, they had changed their mind and wanted me totally pushed out of the estate. Then they got into hiring an attorney over in Southfield. And he came on board. I think they hired him on a contingency basis. Let me tell you, I just wasn't prepared for what happened next, because I really thought when I went into court, everything would play out the way it should. The judge would be there. She would be the almighty, the wise. I thought the attorneys that she appointed over the estate would step up and be kind to me, because I was grieving. Mm-hmm. And it turned out totally different. When the nieces got involved and got the attorney, they wanted Sheila to step down because she was a relative of Conrad's. So Sheila did step down, and then that's when the court appointed Thomas Brandon Frazier. Thomas Brandon Frazier has a team of family members who's been stealing and pillaging my estate as well. His wife, Stephanie Nelson, does his bookkeeping, and I believe she is a paralegal as well. I think she has a brother and a father somehow or another that's involved in this business. It's a racketeering business, I call it. Mm-hmm. So then they evicted me out of the farm, and they didn't want me to have anything at all. Meanwhile, I was still looking for the will. Well, lo and behold, this past February, I found the will. I had been very sick, and this stuff makes you crazy and makes you sick.
Yes, it does. I'm sure.
Yes, it does. It absolutely stresses you out. I had a mirror that my mother had given me when she passed away, and I hung it in my dining room. And actually, Conrad was the last person to hang it. I had another mirror that my father bought me for Christmas and wanted me to hang it, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't feel right about it. Well, finally, the mirror that was hanging on the wall in the dining room fell, and I was just too weak to have the mirror picked up from behind my hutch. So a friend was over, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind helping me take the mirror out and hang the new one up, and he said, certainly. Well, when we pulled the mirror out, there was the will. And it had been sitting there, and I've had many, many girls over from the court. We're all court watchers together. We've had many dinners and talked about that bloody will, and here it was sitting in the dining room the whole time. So from that point, I went into court in March, and I filed all the proper paperwork to become the PR, as well as I was the sole heir in the will and cultisil. They gave me a court date March 25th, and then the COVID-19 happened, so we didn't get to have our day in court. But I found it very strange that Judge Callahan had asked the opposing party to make up the order to change the date. And that's Ehrlich, Joseph Ehrlich. He made the order up on March 24th, gave it to the judge. The judge sat on it until May 26th. She signed it. Then she sat on it for another, I think it was 10 or 12 days. And she faxed it over to Ehrlich's office on June 5th. Then he sat on it till, he said he mailed it out on July 27th. Of course, he didn't really mail it out till the 30th, and then his girl Friday didn't file it with the court till August 4th. Well, everything they had done was not by the court rules, and they were absolutely doing things underhandedly. The judge probably should have signed the order, put a copy of it in the mail, and sent it off to me. Instead, she was trying to get her buddies, Ehrlich and Frazier, another payday off of my estate. When they sent the order out and the new date, they didn't put the directions in for Zoom. And so I complained about that. But everything I had sent to them, objecting to the way they handled the whole thing from the time I filed this case, was simply for the fact to document everything. Because with these guys, you've got to document everything you do. Cross your T's, dot your I's. Otherwise, they'll say they didn't receive it, they don't know what you're talking about, or you didn't file it the right way. And so I was very, very careful in how I handled that. For me doing that, my reward was they had sent me an email. Now, I'll tell your listeners, I have dyslexia. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yes.
But I have a problem with reading. I probably have maybe a first grade reading ability. And the court knows this, and they've tried to use this against me. So they used an email, and I don't know where they got my email from because I don't do email. I never have. But they sent the cancellation. They told me back on the 20th of August to cancel my hearing. And I was floored because I showed up on time with a friend of mine who was going to help me read the paper and that I had to present to the court. And they just pulled the rug out from underneath me. So you have to be very careful when you go into Oakland County because these guys definitely don't want me to have my estate. My estate is worth around $1.1 million. And they've already spent and gone through it. And I'm down to probably $500,000 now. And now they're telling me that they want to do their accounting. And I had to put a freeze on all my assets. So they want to do an accounting now, and they want to give $50,000 to each of those nieces. Well, those nieces have no standing. They want to pay Joe Ehrlich, an attorney that was retained by Thomas Brandon Frazier, $65,000. And with all this accounting, Valerie, there are no receipts. So they're really trying to rape and steal and pillage my estate. So that's where we are
Wow.
right now.
That is reprehensible. And I heard you say when you were testifying and telling your story in that video clip that there were about 3,000 cases.
Yes.
That's a lot. And so you go
Yes.
from over $1 million down to 500,000. So basically they just want to do you all the way down to nothing. And who
Yes.
sets these fees? You know, the fees are astronomical. I saw like $245 an hour to review some paperwork before on a case. I saw $10 just because they made a phone call and the phone call went to the voicemail. That's $10. I mean, every single thing that they do, there's a charge.
Yes, there is.
And there is no flat rate or no set rate. They just charge whatever they want then. Is that correct?
As far as I know, in Oakland County, the sky's the limit. And with Joe Ehrlich being from he says, prominent law firm of Bloomfield Hills, you can imagine he's getting probably $500 or $600 an hour. So it's absurd. It's obscene, the money that they make. I think that we really need to have reform done on these courts because they just think that they can do as they please. And with Thomas Brandon Frazier being appointed through the Attorney General's office, and she terminated them without any punishment. I was floored when she did that. She even said that Justice McCormick and herself had decided to terminate those 4 attorneys from Oakland County because they were stealing, raping, and pillaging. If that were you or I doing that, we'd be indicted and put in jail.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yes. And these people here are well insulated. My judge, Judge Callahan, is insulated by her husband. He's an FBI agent in Detroit. They're very corrupt at the FBI agency in Detroit. I've gone down there and they told me that it's a probate matter. We don't want to talk about it. So they don't really care if you're taken to the cleaners or not. And I see other family members going through a lot more than I am when I see them with their moms and their dads being held hostage for money. It's absurd what goes on there. It goes on day in and day out. And they feel quite comfortable. I'm just floored by it all. I never thought in my wildest dreams that this is what went on in Oakland County, ever. And now that I found the will, you'd think that they would hand everything over to me. Absolutely not. They want to make sure that I have nothing left.
Absolutely. I'm surprised they didn't try to invalidate the will and say that it wasn't real or, it's just a mess. It's a mess. And how long has this mess been going on? When did this fight start for you?
Well, he passed away in 2016 of November. Matter of fact, on the 18th will be our anniversary that he passed away. So it's been a long fight, but I'll tell you, I have met some wonderful, wonderful people at the probate court, the girls and the guys who are fighting to get their estates back or get their parents back. We have to band together and stay together. Otherwise, you absolutely would lose your mind. These people are so vicious and vile. They're evil. Mm-hmm. And you have to have support. Otherwise, you won't survive there. You just won't. These people go so far as to follow you, tag you. They want to ruin your reputation. They'll do anything they can to get their hands on your estate. And quite frankly, I think they probably murdered people to get the money. I have no doubt of it. Yes. It's
like a whole mafia thing going on.
It is. It is. It absolutely is. And I was at on the 14th of Saturday, I had gone into Lansing, Michigan for Stand Up Michigan. And I did a little speech there for them, trying to warn the people about our court system and how corrupt it is, because I know that they're having the rally about Mr. Trump, and he's going to come into Michigan and try to get a fair day in court, and that's not going to happen, not with the way things are going. So we really need to get in there and clean up our court system. Valerie, I never want another human being to go through what I've gone through ever again. It's horrid.
Yes, despicable. And when you say clean up the court system, I never looked at corruption along this vein in the probate court system. I thought it was just, and the scales were balanced. I have looked at the corruption from the wrongful conviction lens and things of that nature with my warrior sister, the founder of Survivors Speak, Trisha Duckworth. So I've seen a lot of wrongful conviction in terms of crime, but it's almost like you're treated like a criminal. You're a victim. You're victimized.
You're absolutely right.
And it's horrid. It's like Rick Black said, estate trafficking. And he said, well, because I called it another form of human trafficking. He was like, well, not really, because the prostitution and stuff not going on. Well, maybe not sex for sale, but they're certainly raping people out of every single last thing that they have. Yes. All you can hold on to is your sanity, and you got to fight hard to do that.
Yes, you do. And what's sad about it is that in every court across the land, there are cannons that are carved in the walls. And these judges take an oath. They promise to uphold the canons, our Constitution in Michigan, as well as the federal. And all they do is get in there and they make up law and interpret the law and do as they please. And they use their platform to go up against the citizens of Michigan. And that is totally illegal. And nobody seems to be able to stop these people. So we're looking into possibly going after their bond, because everybody that takes an oath in Michigan, a state employee, is bonded. And I think eventually, after you go after their bond so many times, they're unbondable, and then they can't sit on the bench any longer. So that's what we're possibly looking into. As well as I'm starting a pop bottle drive to collect money so we can start saving and go after these guys for racketeering charges, because they're a mafia, no doubt. And something has to be done. And we need to start with the Supreme Court Justice McCormick, because she could stop this right now if she would just fire these judges. But she chooses not to. And she has a blind eye to the judges and these attorneys, as well as the Attorney General. She doesn't want to get involved. She went on this so-called listening tour back last year and listened to thousands of people complain. And I went to the last meeting in Mount Morris, and I asked her straight up to her face, why is it we have to give our assets up to you and our parents? And she wouldn't answer me. And then I asked her why she terminated these 4 attorneys without any consequences. Then her girl Friday stepped in and didn't want to have Dana answer that, and told me that they didn't think that was what was going on. Well, my goodness, all the complaints that they had, they couldn't figure that out. So definitely, I believe that Dana Nussel, who worked down in Wayne County with Milton Mack, who was down in Wayne County as a judge, and then they put him over the administration of the courts in Michigan, they're definitely the gatekeepers. These people are planned, and they're trained well, and they're put in these positions. We had a meeting with Dana Nussel and her staff, and really, truly got nowhere with them. Nowhere.
Well, with politicians, it's very, very few of them that will take a stand for the right thing. They're our friends and, outside of the courtroom, most of them, and in cahoots with one another. And I think either they have blinders on or they just fail to see. And the scales of justice have the blinders on. And I believe that they really have them on and they're not really trying to see what's going on. Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder can see that's wrong and they can't damn see. So I know darn well that they can see it. So I don't know what it's really going to take for justice to be served. But you have described what justice looks like to you. Some arrests need to be made and some people need to go to jail.
Yes, they do. And I'll tell you, if the Attorney General really wanted to find out about the corruption and stop all the nonsense, instead of going on this tour, and I said this to her as well, why don't you take your people and quietly go into the courts and do an investigation and find out for yourselves? She didn't want to hear that, and that's when she got up and ran out the door. She did not want to stay and listen to any more questions that I had to ask her, because if you've never been put through the ringer, you just don't understand. And she definitely, I don't think she's ever had a hard time or a hard day in her life. So to stand there and try to defend why she's not going to prosecute was beyond me.
Okay, so we're coming back and we're going to talk a little bit more with Victoria. Before the break, she told her story, and her story is heart-wrenching. I just can't imagine having over $1 million in assets and you sit and watch them be pillaged. And you're down to 500,000 and they're just dwindling away with more and more and more fees. I can't imagine how those people even sleep at night knowing that they're making a living off of the backs of someone else's misery. I can't imagine why they won't allow cameras in the courtroom so that some of these things can be captured. So I know that you said you were going to be a court watcher. Victoria, what does that consist of? When you said that you were volunteering to be that, what does that consist of? And how does that help with this process?
Well, Valerie, we show up every morning at 8:30 and we have pen and paper in hand and we sit down and we watch the judges and the attorneys and write down the case numbers, and anybody who's not getting their fair day in court, we write that down as well. And these judges totally do not want us in the courtroom because they know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We had Judge O'Brien throw us out.
Throw you out? Wait a minute. What do you mean throw you out? Like get out?
Yes, get out of my courtroom right now. So he's also locked up a very good friend of ours, Jody White, because she's a smart cookie and she was on to this a lot faster than I was in gathering people to come in as a group and go into the courts and watch, because these people have no conscience and they do it in broad daylight in front of a whole courtroom full of people. And if they really want to destroy you, they will make you wait to the last case and then they empty out the courtroom, and then they go after you. And there are no witnesses. They love to do backroom deals, and the judges are complicit. It's just unbelievable, the corruption there. And, you know, I was thinking during the break, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gretchen Rachel Hammond, but she wrote a 5-part series called The Fortress. And it definitely goes in and tells you about everything in Oakland County. So I think if your audience would be interested in truly finding out and reading it, it's a very long read, but take your time. It'll give you the information that you need to know.
Yeah, also someone spoke about the movie The Guardian, that was a pretty good movie. I have not seen it. I'm not much of a movie watcher, but I do need to make some time to watch that, because this is like silent torture. Because you said they threw you out the courtroom. It's almost like they're silencing your voice.
They try.
And they're torturing you. They try. Now, the name of your group, they're a group of women who you say were court watchers. Don't you have a name for your group? The purple shirts? I don't know. I thought I heard of
blue shirts. The blue shirts.
The blue shirts. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is primarily for Wayne County, actually, but it's for guardians. I have an estate. I was fortunately, I'm glad I didn't have Conrad in guardianship, because I'd probably be in jail, Valerie. If they came and would have taken him and held him hostage, I would have probably gone after them with a gun. And I know that sounds terrible, but I couldn't.
It don't sound terrible to me. Bang, bang, mama.
I just couldn't imagine someone keeping my loved one. I would go just absolutely.
Yeah, I can't imagine that either. You know, when I hear of these stories, which I tell you, I've never heard of these stories before. So this is all new to me. My reactions, my statements, and everything are organic. Never heard of this stuff before.
Yes.
And I can't imagine, you know, taking a loved one away and they won't allow you to talk to them and all of these other terrible things that they do. I've even heard of a story where they move the person.
They do.
They move them. So the family didn't even know where they were at.
That's right. Because they want to make sure there's no communication. They make them feel isolated, and they want to steal the assets. That's what it's all about. If you were to go in and say, you know, I just want to see my mom, take all the assets, then you could see your mother. I'm sure they'd let you do that. But since people fight, and here's the key to it, it's a win-win for the courts, because they have your inheritance or your parents' assets, and then all the money you have saved up, you take that and you go retain an attorney, and then you're fighting to get what's rightfully back that's yours, your parent or their assets, and they win that as well. So I think probably you might want to have Gretchen Rachel Hammond on your talk show. She would be a very good guest.
Let's do so. I'm sure we can set that up. You just heard the story of Victoria McCaskey. It wasn't really a story. It was more like a nightmare. I'm so happy that she found the will behind that mirror. And I'm so happy that she has the will to fight. Once this document is submitted into court, I hope they give her all that she deserves so she can go on and live her life. We will follow up with Victoria and let you know what else is going on with her story. You have listened to another episode of Devil in the Courtroom. So long.